Here's the solution for day 3, problem 1. Carl can pick enough apples to fill a barrel in half an hour. Javon takes 42 minutes to do it. In how many minutes can they pick a bucket full of apples if they work together? This question is about work. So there's a general formula we're going to use. Work is equal to rate times time. We have 2 people, so let's list their names. Carl and Javon. Let's figure out the rate that Carl can pick the apples. The first sentence says, Carl can fill a barrel in half an hour. Because the other person's time is given in minutes, and because the question asked in how many minutes can they do this, we need to convert the half an hour into 30 minutes. Let's use that value to get Carl's rate. If Carl takes 30 minutes to fill a barrel, then he can fill 1/30 of a barrel each minute. Let's model Javon's rate of picking apples in the same way. If it takes Javon 42 minutes to fill a barrel, then he can fill 1/42 of a barrel each minute. The question asks, in how many minutes will it take these 2 boys to fill a barrel with apples? This is a time. Let's choose the variable t to represent this unknown amount of minutes. Next, let's use this formula for work to model the situation. The total amount of work that gets substituted for W is a 1, meaning 1 barrel of apples picked. That total amount of work comes from Carl doing work plus Javon doing work. So let's add together Carl's work plus Javon's work. Carl's work is his rate of speed times the time that he's picking apples, plus Javon's work is his rate of speed times the time that he's picking apples. Now we have an equation that models the situation. This equation has fractions, so the technique is to multiply all terms by the LCD. If one denominator is 30 and one denominator is 42, then the lowest number that 30 and 42 both divide into is 210. Now you might be wondering how I knew that that number was 210. To figure out that the LCD was 210, I factored the number 30 as 5 times 6. And I factored the number 42 as 6 times 7. Then I created a number from these factors. I chose a 5 and a 6 because they're the factors of 30, and I also chose a 7 because it's the other factor besides 6 that is in 42. 5 times 6 times 7 is 210. Multiply all terms of the equation by 210. Here, and here, and here. 210 times 1 makes 210. When multiplying this together, the 30 divides into the 210 7 times, and 7 times t is 7t. When multiplying over here, the 42 goes into the 210 5 times, and 5 times t is 5t. Now combine like terms. 210 equals 12t. And divide by 12 on both sides to get t alone. The result is 17.5. T was representing the time in minutes that the boys are picking apples. So we want to include the unit minutes along with our answer. Now day 3, problem 2. We have an equation that has fractions. So the technique is to multiply by the LCD. when you look at the denominators, there's an x, a 2x, and a 6. The LCD will have a number and a variable. Let's figure out the number part first by looking at the 2 and the 6. The lowest number that 2 and 6 both go into is 6. Now let's work with the variable. This fraction has an x, and this fraction has an x. So our denominator must have an x. Let's multiply all terms by 6x. The reason for doing that is to cancel denominators. The x cancels out the x. 2x goes into 6x 3 times. Over here, the 6 reduces out the 6. Now let's multiply together. 6 times 1 makes 6. 3 times 1 makes 3. And x times 1 makes x. So we can see that the answer is 9 is equal to x.